So before we talk about types of bonds, we need to review really quick our different types of elements. So there are three different types of elements. We have metals, nonmetals, and metalloids. Now, remember, our metals are on the center and the left side of our periodic table, and then that strip underneath down at the bottom. Our nonmetals are in the top right-hand corner, and our metalloids are along the staircase that go down between the metals and the nonmetals. So when we look at types of bonds, we're looking at the different types of elements that are coming together to form compounds. So we determine the types of bonds based on the types of elements that are bonding together. So there are two major combinations we're going to look at. We're going to look at metals and nonmetals, and we're going to look at just nonmetals. Okay, so our first type is if we have a metal element and a nonmetal element. We call that type of bond an ionic bond. So anytime there's a compound that has a metal in it, we call it an ionic compound because there is an ionic bond between the metal and the nonmetal. The other type of bond that can form are between two nonmetals. So we have a nonmetal plus another nonmetal. And that type of bond we call covalent. So a covalent bond is formed when we have two nonmetals bonded together. And then we still have our metalloids. We don't often look at metalloids. When we do, they are usually in covalent, so they're behaving like nonmetals, so they form covalent compounds. But we're not going to look at our metalloids all that closely. And then we can also have metals that bond with other metals. That's called metallic bonding. That's another type of bonding that we're not going to look very closely at. We're going to focus on ionic bonding, and we're going to focus on covalent bonding. So if you're trying to decide if a compound has ionic bonds or covalent bonds, you're going to look at the types of elements. If there's a metal, it's forming an ionic bond. If there's only nonmetals, it's forming a covalent bond. And that's how you can tell which types of bonds are being formed.